Hello and Happy New Year to you friends from Knit Case Designs. My name is James and I make handmade soaps. I also do handmade knit goods and other crafty things. And here on my channel we are starting the new year off with a plan. So we haven't been making soap for a couple months and we've been focusing on doing some knit projects. I made a couple wreaths, knitting different items, and I've been working a lot on my gardening and garden prep for the springtime, so picking out seeds and things like that, doing a lot of research. But as far as soap making goes, I've been just taking a break for a couple months, and I've got so much soap that I've already made that I haven't done anything with. Like I need to get out and stock my sale area at this local coffee shop that I sell through. I need to work on my online setup, but you know, that kind of thing takes time and money. Two things that are in short supply around here, but we do okay. But I'm looking forward to getting into the new year. I want to do more videos on knitting and the history of things and skincare and the development, like how we got to where we are in soap making, like what chooses, like what sort of like things led up to the ingredients that we use now versus the ingredients we used then. What do we know about natural skincare? What do we know about how our pigments are made? What do we know about these things? And similarly, like, what do we know about other crafts and the histories of those crafts? We are really caretakers of history. That's all of humanity. And I think 2020 is going to be the year that we are looking back, right? Hindsight is 2020, and that's what we're doing on this channel. So we are going to continue making soap, continue putting out recipes and great videos for you guys for, you know, ASMR content, or if you just like hearing me ramble. I plan on getting in front of the camera a little bit more too, so you will get to see my beautiful face once I, you know, get a haircut and trim my beard and stuff. We'll see. I plan on taking you along on my gardening journey, doing some vlogging stuff with that. So it's going to become, you know, a more variety type channel, but really encompassing home crafting and history and just sort of like getting to understand the way that we live today and where we've come from historically. And if you're into that, you and I are on the same wavelength. If you're not into that, I hope to get you into that. I love research, I love history, I love making things, I love doing things. My dogs are also really awkwardly playing out of the corner of my camera, and I'm just gonna lose my marbles. But if you hear them barking and whining, trust me, they are not dying. They are fine. They're just causing a ruckus because they know that I'm busy. Anywho, today, back to the actual soap that we're making. I have switched up my recipe. I'm going to do something a little more fun. In this bowl, I have a combination of olive oil, coconut oil, cocoa butter, and shea butter, and a little bit of avocado oil. So I normally have lanolin in every recipe, and this is no exception. What I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be soaping with these oils, and then I have a super fat of lanolin, and that's going to go in after we have put everything in. So I'm going to probably have to liquefy that a little bit before I add it, because lanolin's kind of a hard sell. Like it's a waxy type substance from the interior of sheep's wool, and Chauncey, shh, I'm making a video. And so it's going to be tough to do in its liquid state. So I'm probably going to do that. Before then, I want to talk about my fragrance for today. I'm going to be making Grapefruit Tangelo. This is from Rustic Essentials. It smells super citrusy, super spring and summery. It makes me feel, you know, very refreshed, which I like in soap. Some people, citrus is not their thing. I get that. That's fine. For colors, I'm going to be using from Nurture Soap. I've got Heartbreaker, which is this gorgeous, like, hot pink magenta sort of color. And then also from Nurture Soap, I'm going to be using Mango Tango, which is this sort of electric orange color, which is just so awesome. And then I'm also going to be using some titanium dioxide. I will be dispersing this in some water, and I'll be adding that to the body of the soap, and then these two colors will be like an accent. Finally, because we all know I'm super extra, I have some gold mica dispersed in a little bit of avocado oil, and that I'm just going to create some pretty design on the top. And in hindsight, I definitely should not have put that in a cupcake container. And then I'll be piping it out with a little pipette or eyedropper, whatever you want to call it. So right now I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to melt my lye solution. Jeez. I'm going to melt my lanolin and get my titanium dioxide dispersed in some water, and we'll be back in just a second. Okay, we are back. I have dispersed my titanium dioxide in a little bit of distilled water, and I've also gone ahead and melted my lanolin. You can see, nice and liquid. I've also brought over my lye water solution. So this is lye mixed with distilled water, and then I've also added some kaolin clay, which will add just some nice detoxifying properties to help you really buff off those dead skin cells, and also just make it feel extra silky in the bath. It's like adding any clay is going to add like a nice slip to your soap. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I am going to remove my spatula here. And I should also mention that I'm going to be soaping at around room temperature. So I'll grab a thermometer here and I'll tell you. So right now my oils are at 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is 25 degrees Celsius for those of you in other places. And then my lye is going to be at around 84 degrees Fahrenheit or 29 degrees Celsius. And the idea here is that you want to get them between, within the same 10 to 15 degree range. That way you won't have issues with acceleration or separation, and they should adhere really well together, because you don't want to add super hot lye solution to super cold oils or vice versa. It just wouldn't spell out a great time for you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to get my stick blender in here. This is just a standard immersion blender. Give it a couple pulses. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and add my lye solution to my oils. And it's going to be very boring. There we go. And little bits of kaolin clay at the bottom. I put about 2 tablespoons per 2 pounds of soap. So about a tablespoon per pound. Duh, who can't math? So what I'm going to do here is just kind of give it a little stir, get things kind of moving. You can see it slowly changing color. That's little bits of lye that are starting to interact with the oils. Give it a couple pulses. And you don't want to over pulse, because when you over mix, you run the risk of your soap setting up too quickly, and you do not want that. So I'm just alternating pulsing and stirring. This is also breaking up any additional clumps of kaolin clay that are in there. You can see them kind of sitting at the top. And then there's Sherman. Alright, so I'm actually going to take this out, because I'm going to be blending the colors individually. Oh my gosh. Are just killing my vibe here. The joys of pet parenthood, am I right? So there are 2 different ways you could have done this. Like, I could add some oil to the pigment and mix it up that way. Or I can do what I'm doing here and just have it at the bottom of my container, and then I'll mix it in. So we'll put about equal parts the orange and the blue, or orange and the pink. Set this aside, let these guys take center stage here. Then I'll get my blender back on. And just try and get the bubbles out. You don't want to introduce a lot of bubbles to your soap. Alright, so our orange is good. Now let's get into the pink. probably could have done the white first, but the thing is, titanium dioxide has a tendency to accelerate your trace a little bit. So that's no fun. We want to kind of combat that as much as we can. So I'll move these over here, add my titanium dioxide. I'll set that up here. Just sort of blend that in. Alright. It's looking really awesome. Alright, so we'll just kind of knock that off. And then I'm going to grab my spatula here. Just sort of give it a stir, wipe down the sides a little bit. So I mentioned earlier how I'm soaping around room temperature, and the reason that that is a good thing... Oh, I almost forgot my lanolin. This is the time. So just add a little bit to each container. So adding this as a super fat, so basically the amount of lye that I measured out will only interact with the amount of oils that I put in for the recipe. So this additional lanolin that I'm putting in, I did not put in lye to account for. So it won't saponify the same way that the other oils do. So it'll just sort of suspend itself within the soap and just kind of give you more of those like skin-loving properties that we so adore. Stir that bad boy right in. Use that for the pink. And I don't know about you guys, but lanolin has easily become my all-time favorite additive. I usually just use it as a straight oil in my soap, and I think it adds a really luxurious feel that I love. But I think as a super fat, this is the first time I've done it like that. And I'm super excited to kind of see what happens. So at this point, we can go ahead and add our fragrance oil. Everything is still behaving. Working at a lower temperature allows you a little more work time. So we have a little more time to kind of boogie. So I'm going to go ahead and add, this is 1 ounce. I'm just going to kind of alternate back and forth. Let's put the rest in here. And on their website, they do not mention this discoloring at all, so I'm really hopeful that the colors will remain true in the finished product. It smells amazing. I am just so excited to use it. I don't know if you guys know much about Grapefruit or Tangelo. Hopefully you do, because, you know, they're delicious. But I think Grapefruit has sort of a, like an earthy bitter smell, as compared to like Tangelos, which are very like sweet. If you've had a clementine, they're kind of similar. I'm grabbing my molds here. I've got a couple. I'm just sort of going to fill them 3/4 of the way full and then see how many I need. I've got 4 available to me, and then I can grab a backup if I need it. So probably a 3rd one. I'll just sort of alternate back and forth until they're all full. And then make sure you scrape out your container because you don't want to waste any of that wonderful soap. So I'll go, this one looks a little lower than the others. I'll put some more in here. There we go, and I'll just wash the rest of that out later. So now what we're going to do is mix in our orange. In fact, you know what, I'm just going to line these up over here. kind of where I want them. Give them a nice good stir. Yeah. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just like layer these on the top, like drop swirl. And then at the end I will swirl them with a hanger tool. And don't worry about being too messy. There's no such thing. Just keep alternating. And that's about as tall as that one's going to get. And when you're done, just sort of like drizzle on the top. And we're going to add the gold to the top as well. Just don't want to waste any of that soap. So we'll grab our hanger tool, and it looks like this. Just a wire tool, and just sort of like get it to the size that you need, and just sort of rake through it a little bit. I'm just going to do it on the top. Just sort of clean it off here. Put that aside. And don't worry about being too messy because we're going to clean it all up later. Then I'm going to get my gold out. Just get a little spritz here. And you can probably just take that same one and just sort of like do a design on the top. Just swirl it around. Doesn't need to be perfect. Very zen, very Bob Ross. And there you have it. This gorgeous, beautiful Grapefruit Tangelo soap. I'll bring you guys back for the cut later. And I'll be doing them in the same video this time. Yay, more new things in 2020. But right now I'm going to go ahead and clean these up, and then we will see you guys back here for the cut. Don't go anywhere. We're back for the cut of our Grapefruit Tangelo soap. I've already unmolded 2 of these, and here's the 3rd one. Just wanted to let you see how when they dry, you know, they get kind of a matte finish. You can steam this and bring back some of that bright color, but I don't always think it's necessary. So I've got my multi-bar cutter here, nice and tight. It uses piano wire, or guitar wire, sorry. I got this from Bud's Workshop on Etsy. He makes really great stuff, so if you're ever in the market for a multi-bar cutter, I would recommend him highly. I've positioned my bars so they kind of sit in between. That way it should hopefully shave off just a little bit on the edges so we don't end up with like one side getting completely cut off and then the other side has like the end of the bar, because the end of the bar is not very, like, it's not really pretty. There's not nothing really going on. So get that lined back up. And if it doesn't cut anything, it doesn't cut anything, because it's actually probably going to fall in the middle. So it's probably barely going to shave anything off, honestly. But that's okay. Nice even pressure all the way down. And they click when they're all the way through. So go ahead and pull out a bar from the middle. Look at that. So the way we got these swirls, if you remember, is we poured everything kind of in a drop swirl type pattern. And then from there, we took a hanger tool and we swirled it. And since the batter was just so nice and fluid, like, it gives you those really great swirls. Aren't those awesome? And it goes without saying that this smells fantastic. And remember, we've got that suspension of lanolin in there, which did not saponify with the soap. Remember, we added that as a super fat. Second bar. Second loaf, rather. And then look at the top here. Just how beautiful that gold is. And that gold is just suspended in avocado oil, so it kind of, when it gets in there, it sinks down and leaves the mica sitting on the top. So you get kind of a channel effect, but I just think that is just so darn cool. I love those swirls right here. It smells so good. It's got that, I was afraid that something like this would be too sweet smelling, but it really has like that depth that a grapefruit I think naturally has. It's got sort of that bitterness, that sort of very essential oily kind of smell to it. Which is probably why it makes such great face wash and a good toner. Just like grapefruit in general is a great fragrance that they use for that. So for this last one, I'm going to show you how I unmold them. It's really not that hard. You set this aside, grab a paper towel. Paper towel is optional. You can use a rag or just the countertop. So to do this, you just pull away from the sides a little bit. And if your soap is ready, it's going to pull away naturally and it's not going to smash in. You'll know if it's too soft. You know, if you pull away and soap is pulling away with it, then it's too soft and you need to let it sit in here a lot longer. Some people suggest leaving it sit for days, weeks. The recipes I use and the way that I make the soap, I don't typically have to wait more than a day. I was soaping with just a tiny bit of a water discount, which is probably the most common way that people can avoid having to wait multiple days. So I get to unmold right now. So once you have your sides pulled away, you'll just go ahead and kind of break the airlock in the bottom. So you're just pressing kind of firmly but consistently. You don't want to put a dent in the bottom of your soap. And you'll feel it let go. And then eventually it'll just kind of slide out on its own. But you don't want to push too hard because you will dent your soap. And then it lets go. No soap in the mold. That's fantastic. Good way to be. And you just pluck this up off the table. And there you have it. No smashed sides. No big dents. And then we just pull back over our cutter. Reposition it. And give it a cut. Just kind of knock off, like brush off some of that extra. I really like the way this one turned out. It's got sort of a like a downward spiral, or not like a swirl as much as it's like a downward scoop. I like that. And then these colors contrasted with the white, it's just really nice. Such a pretty soap. And this has, if you recall, coconut oil, olive oil, cocoa butter, shea butter, lanolin as a super fat, and avocado oil. I love those swirls. So this is going to be very rich, very nourishing soap. And it's got kind of a heft to it. I think the lanolin really helps kind of add some weight to it, add some gravity. So keep in mind, if you want to leave the lanolin out, like that's totally fine. If you want a vegan soap, that's what you should do. Lanolin is not considered a vegan product, even though it like doesn't, you don't hurt the animal by harvesting the lanolin. It's kind of like beeswax in that way. Like, it's still an animal byproduct, so it's not considered vegan. But since we use it just as a super fat, you could easily leave it out or substitute it for something else. Like, what's another really great? Like jojoba oil or hemp seed oil, rapeseed oil, soy wax if you want to do some soy wax, or some additional butter. You know, look, there mango butter, more cocoa butter, different other things. So feel free. You can use those sorts of super fats in a lot of different ways, and everything has different skin properties. So you just got to kind of find what works for you and what you like. This happens to be a lot of things I already had on hand, and I like them. So that is the cut of our Grapefruit Tangelo soap, and we look forward to seeing you soon.